Hello and welcome to the Broadcast Newswrap podcast, your shorthand guide to the TV business news of the week, brought to you by the Broadcast editorial team. I'm Hannah Bowler, and this week we've got a special episode where we introduce TV Mindset's Adeel Amini in the wake of the TV Coalition for Change's first meeting. Adeel managed a master feat of getting together senior execs from across the industry to find practical solutions to freelancer working conditions. I caught up with him to chat about how the first meeting went and the next steps the coalition are going to go through. Later on, I'm joined by John Elmes, Broadcast International Editor, to discuss the Distributors Showcase live event hosted by Broadcast. So, John, I hear it's been a very busy week for you. How are you holding up?
Yeah, I'm good. It's a pleasure to be back, Hannah. I'm literally an hour and a half since we wrapped our then final event, and it was good fun, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about it in a little while.
How have you been outside of that?
Pretty zombified, both in what I've been watching. I've given you a little bit of clue, and just generally just hard work. I think we're all kind of slogging away as autumn comes around with a vengeance.
So I sat down this week with Adeel Amini from the TV Mindset, coming straight off the back of his first meeting where he set up the TV Coalition for Change. The meeting took place last week, and it basically brought together all the bigwig industry heads. And the first meeting on the agenda was bullying, harassment, racism, and ableism. And here he is to tell you a lot more about it. So, hi, Adeel. Welcome to the Broadcast Newswrap podcast. First of all, how's things? How have you been?
Busy. I've been busy. Well, thank you for having me. But yes, things have been very, very busy, both with various bits of campaigning, as I'm sure we'll talk about, and also with production. Been lucky enough to be working during lockdown and over the summer as well. So yeah, it's it's been busy on both counts.
So we're here today to talk about the TV Coalition for Change, which you founded. And I wondered if, to start, we could kind of talk about the journey and how it was formed and where you got to where you are now.
God, the journey it was quite a stressful journey. I will be very, very honest about that. I think there's a reason that something like this hadn't been done before. So I obviously did a lot of campaigning as part of TV Mindset, which again isn't really something that I intended to do, but I had a platform. I was a TV freelancer who went through some things and wanted to talk about it to try and increase awareness and make a difference, and somehow I would say that got out of control in a way that I didn't really expect. So I wear this hat very, very uncomfortably because I got into this industry not to be a campaigner but to be a producer, which I'm very lucky to be. But obviously when you start saying certain things and people start listening, and when the lockdown happened, we were providing a service with the TV Mindset of various webinars and things like that, and it was making a difference. I think had so many people reach out, and every one of those messages makes all the sort of long hours and the sleepless nights worthwhile. And you sort of feel a responsibility as well to people. I think one of the key things from this whole experience and this whole year is that our industry is broken, whether we like it or not. And that's not to discount all the wonderful work that people are doing. But the truth is, whatever we're doing as individuals, as groups, it's just not working. People are unhappy. And I don't think the work that I'm doing would have gotten so much traction if people didn't respond to it in a certain way. There's a definite ache in this industry that needs to be addressed. So with that in mind, obviously we thought in August, I was working and speaking to Charlotte Black from Channel 4 and Donna Tabra from the BBC quite a lot. Donna had done a lot of work with Broadcast and was setting up, I think she did the Screen Skills broadcast debate with you guys. And Charlotte was doing a lot of stuff around culture change and was really interested to sort of, be part of that movement. Realised that, we were sort of coming out of the crisis by August, and we realised that we had to do something with our collective contacts, with broadcasters, freelancers, other stakeholder groups. We thought we have to have some sort of meaning, for all of this, that we can't go back to the industry the way it was. We have to, all of this trouble and all of this strife has to mean something. And it took a lot of work. I don't think anyone really knows just how horrific August was in getting this coalition off the ground.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, you've rallied around some big names, big organizations. How did you go about that? How did you get to those people and have them sign the original declaration?
I mean, my version is that I was just relentlessly annoying. And I was determined. I just again realized that, yeah, I'm going to be open. You know, everyone knows this as well. Is that initially what we thought after the first two Edinburgh sessions, that we thought we might actually get a charter. You know, we might actually be able to get people to sign up to things for freelancers that would immediately improve the industry. However, as soon as we started delving into that, we realized actually this is really deep policy work, and it can't just be signed off in 2 weeks. It's got a lot of legal ramifications. There's a lot of stakeholders involved, and it's a real sort of, you know, bucking the system in a way that just hasn't been done before and probably can't be done in that short time. So we regrouped, and one of the things that is, you know, good about being independent with the TV mindset is that you can be agile and you can respond to the needs of the industry and freelancers. And we realized, okay, what we need is an agreement to at least talk. And I think it was Danny Horan actually who said in one of the edited debates that we needed to have like an industry-wide working group. So obviously that's where we, you know, started talking about it a bit more, and the other stakeholder groups were like, you know, we can't just, you know, everyone has to have a say. And I think the whole point of us being in this situation is that people do need to have a seat at the table, whether it's to do with like diversity or, you know, any sort of policies. And my thing has always been, it isn't about having a seat at the table, it's about building a brand new table that works for everyone and that has a place for everyone. And that's what we've done. I'm really, really proud of that. But it was difficult. I think historically everyone knows that broadcasters, you know, tend not to do things with each other, or it's quite an arduous process to do that. So I do look back and I think, bloody hell, like what was I thinking? What was I smoking? Like that this has happened, and how has it happened? I'm really grateful to them for leaning into the culture change, to leaning into, you know, the very real needs of freelancers, and doing so in a way that you know, gives us all a chance to build a fairer and better industry. But, you know, Charlotte and Donna obviously helped with their contacts. They have a lot of respect in the industry. And I think the work that I was doing as well, you know, people had resonated with it and, you know, were willing to listen. And I think that was the other thing as well, is that, you know, the mood was collaborative rather than accusatory. As an industry, we're an ecosystem. We all have our part to play, whether even if it's freelancers perpetuating behavior or staying silent in the face of it. I think we've all had our part to play. So it's more about, look, we know it's a bit rubbish out there, but let's try and work together to solve it. And, you know, let's just try and find some creative solutions.
So all of this kind of culminated in the first meeting, which took place last week, on bullying and harassment, ableisms and racism. And I wondered if you could kind of just unpack, you know, what was on the cards and what kind of actions were drawn from it.
Having 33 odd people in a room, is in a Zoom room as well, is quite unusual. And I, just out of lack of anyone else sort of coming forward or knowing who else to put forward, was acting as a chair. And I've chaired meetings before, but my God, it's quite an experience. Also because there was no precedent as well. I think that was one of my biggest things, is that, right, there is nothing to compare this to. I don't know how it's going to go and how people are going to react to certain things. And I did, you know, I was working with Charlotte Donna and also Abby Kumar of the BAME TV Task Force, who's helping out. And, you know, we agreed that we would, you know, we sent terms of reference out and also just said, it's a safe space, but it's also one of decorum and collaboration and very solutions focused. So please keep it respectful. And I'm pleased to say that, you know, everyone did. Luckily, no one, you know, descended into a fit of rage and started swearing at each other, which is always a good result in TV, I feel. But it's, we put bullying and harassment and racist abuse and ableism on the agenda, mainly because of what, you know, the discussions that came out of the Edinburgh TV Festival around diversity and things like that, but also just to sort of pinpoint, you know, a really valid and quite a prevalent issue in the industry. You know, obviously Beck2 have recently hired a bullying and harassment advisor, I think the role is, but an officer, sorry. And you know, it just felt like a really pertinent thing to look at. So with the agenda, you know, we covered everything really. We sort of looked at the blue sky option, which is a reporting body and an independent reporting body, and Beck2 are doing some research around that for racism. Obviously the charity are doing, from a TV charity, doing some research around that. And to my surprise, it wasn't something that was dismissed, which, I feel like maybe if we were doing this a year ago, it might have been, but I think people do realise the value and merit of having an independent body to look at a lot of these issues. And they do come under, one remit in a way, which essentially is HR. A strong body like that people can pay into would be very valuable for our industry, I think, and catch a lot of the stuff that goes on with freelancers. Due to COVID and various other reasons, time and resources at the moment didn't make it a viable option. My thing is, of course, we want solutions, but we also want solutions that are viable and sustainable and workable for the marginalised of the marginalised. So for that reason, it didn't feel like the right option right now, because it would take a long time, and it's not off the table, but it's one of those things. Okay, well, what can we do tomorrow? These people are suffering right now. What can we do, immediately to sort that out? So we shifted the focus onto that, because again, solutions based. I didn't want to come out of there with like nothing at all. And that's when we started talking about the things that were announced, in our statement to press. So various measures, short and mid-term, we call the suite of measures, a very TV term, I'm sure, and that definitely came in that room, you can tell. A suite of measures, God, I hate myself for saying it. But it was the short term of, just a zero tolerance statement that we're drafting with, in association with BAFTA and BFI, because they've done some really good work on, principles and guidelines in that area. So a zero tolerance statement that we all sign off on, and that becomes sort of our industry standard. Every member of the coalition, that is our ethos. That's what we're putting out there. In the midterm, strengthening whistleblowing procedures, looking at what's available internally, what's available for freelancers. Zai Bennett and Richard Watson have agreed to chair a subgroup to look at a code of conduct for commissioning, and PACT are also joining that to look at a framework for producers as well.
On whistleblowing services, how instrumental do you think they, as a role as they could play in the reporting, and do you think that it needs to be centralized? Obviously, there's different broadcasts, every broadcaster has their own, and they're trying to improve prominence. Do you think there's value in a centralized system? As a freelancer yourself, would that be easier for you? What do you think of that?
I think so. I think if I were to go to one place rather than 3 separate places to complain about something, obviously that's going to be easier and convenient. And I think if that place were equipped to deal with racist abuse as well as, ableism, that would also help. Because the other problem is that, whether it's HR, within a small company or whatever, larger, I've spoken about the fact that it's hard to go and explain a racist incident to white people who've never suffered it. So I think there is merit in it, so long as it's done properly. And I guess the really tricky thing is accountability. And, I can't with any confidence say that any of us have solved that within the coalition. And it's quite an open process. If people, have any ideas, we're more than they're more than welcome to email them over, and we're happy to listen to them, because, there are legal ramifications of certain things as well. We talk about 3 strikes and you're out rules and that kind of thing, but legally they're not, there's a big question mark over them. And when I say question mark, we probably can't do them for legal reasons. So yeah, there's blacklisting is not a thing in this country. It can't be, again, for various things of employment law. And I know that lawyers will be present at certain meetings to, again, make sure that nothing goes through that is contravening the law of this country. So it's there's a merit in centralization and reporting in that sense, but there's also that question of what are the consequences.
I know obviously now there's a broadcaster subgroup set up, but do you think quarterly is enough of a time period to have these meetings? Is there, or will there be work and meetings within the interim, the quarterly?
I think when we set it up, there was no precedent. And, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I'm probably too honest for my own good, but sort of book quarterly as well to not scare people off. Like, committing to one meeting in 3 months, again, when you're getting together this many broadcasters and this many stakeholders, it sort of feels a little bit more manageable than saying you have to meet every month. There's like, everyone's busy, there's a crisis going on, it's a lot to ask. So I was sort of thinking, okay, this feels like a good compromise, but we'll go 18 months rather than a year, because I think we need that amount of like forensic work. And the idea of subgroups is something that, again, I'm really pleased that it's not the result I was expecting in any way, but I'm just really pleased it came organically and it came from the people that it did, because it just seemed like, okay, we're not just going to leave this in this Zoom room and, walk away and not do anything. We are going to continue this work in the interim. It is work that requires a lot more than just 2 hours with a group of people. Like, we have to commit to this. So I'm all for it, and if that happens again after the second meeting, then I certainly have no objections. Anything that helps progress the change is always going to be a good thing.
So looking forward, then, what's up next? So you're meeting in January. Is that the next meeting?
In January, yeah. Before then, I'm going to have a really long sleep.
I can imagine. I can so imagine.
Well, to get production done.
You just have to have your winter break post that.
Yeah, I'm going to go to hibernation. I think that's what I need. The word TV mindset triggers me now, and I need to go into it. No, we are doing the next meeting in January. Obviously, there's going to be subgroup stuff before then, and I think nearer the time, again, I've got a rough idea what the agenda could be, but I think then again the good thing is being agile, because we've had quite a up and down year, and who knows what might come up before Jay. I hope things kind of just steady, but there may be another immediate crisis that we need to look at, or something that's come up in the industry that needs addressing. So the agenda, I think the agenda will be set nearer the time. Some broadcasters sent one person, some sent two. We might encourage people to bring use both their seats if they need to. And we'll also, I suppose, get a measure of whether what we've established in this first meeting and what's been happening in the interim will work, and whether this is a good system, and having people around the table and getting things done. And if people are finding it different and difficult, then we'll just adapt.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. I wondered, as an honorary member of the podcast this week, I wondered if we could do our favourite segment, which is, what have you been watching this week? So what have you been watching, Adeel?
So it's not something positive, I'll tell you that, but I don't mind a Netflix thing here and there, but I started watching this Emily in Paris malark that was, and I apologise to anyone who's listening to this who's worked on it. It's very well made, don't get me wrong, but my God, I was like, why am I watching this rich white woman, or this privileged white woman going around bumbling her way through Paris? I was like, have we not got enough of this in life and in general? I was like, this is, I don't know, it just made me angry. And it's like, I'm not really an angry person. I was like, who are you? Why am I watching this? And everyone's saying, oh, it's really nice and escapist and everything. And I'm like, no, it's not for me, sadly.
That's a good review. I'll take that one.
See, this is what I've never been. And no one should ever give me anything, remotely responsible, because I'm far too honest.
Well, thank you so much. It's been lovely catching up. And I'll let you get on with your day.
Thank you very much, Hannah. Take care.
So that was a really interesting discussion, talking about lots of very important stuff that I think has been top of the agenda for a few weeks now, obviously giving it the gravitas that it deserves. We're going to pivot slightly onto something else that's been going on, which is the Distributor Showcase live event that Broadcast hosted this week. And who better to talk about it than the event organizer himself, John Elmes.
As I said earlier, we are literally an hour and a half or thereabouts since the wrapping of our third and final session for Showcase Live. And we're recording this on Thursday, the 8th of October. And yeah, it was something that around this time, and because October is usually the period of MIPCOM, which is happening next week, but online, that's been disrupted. And we at Broadcast introduced a content strand called Distributors Showcase to try and showcase, quite literally, the best programming that's emerging from the international landscape throughout the year. And we wanted to kind of punctuate it at the most principal time for the distributors, which is around MIPCOM, given that MIPCOM is usually the largest event during the year, live event during the year. And to kind of do our own panel discussions about some of the key and most burning topics in the distribution landscape. And, that obviously so many events are going on at the moment, and it's naturally difficult to cut through. So we had to think about things that we thought would be different to the usual discussions, but in the kind of perennial topics that do come around that are important, we obviously wanted to focus on those too. So we've just finished a day's worth of sessions. There were 3 of them. The first was one called Selling Diverse Content, chaired by myself. The second was called Formats, Futures, A New World of Opportunities, also chaired by me. And the third one was Scripted in the Time of COVID, chaired by our fellow regular poddy guest, Jesse Whittock. Selling Diverse Content was a one that's actually born out of an interview I did last year about the look of diversity in the international content landscape. Obviously, this year in particular has seen diversity quite rightly thrust under the spotlight in a consistent way, with, we think, the industry moving on the matter of diversity in a meaningful way. And that is often looked at through the lens of commissioning and having stories from underrepresented voices, which is absolutely pivotal for TV. But the next step of that is selling it and disseminating it wider than just a host broadcaster in a country. And some of my panelists have really encountered some quite strange at best and kind of outrageous at worst times when trying to sell programming that pertains to this idea of diverse, be it underrepresented voices from in relation to ethnicity or LGBTQ plus, or even female voices. These distributors have struggled to sell programming because it doesn't fit a criteria that pertains to what the buyer wants, which is quite baffling in this world, in this day and age.
So if I happened to want to play some of these back, where might I find them? In a non-subtle plug.
Right. So we have got a showcase website for which the videos will be hosted on in due course. We're going to leave it a little bit of time to gestate, but in due course, these sessions will be available on our showcase website, which is www.broadcastnow.co.uk/showcase. And registrants will also get links to the YouTube videos in due course. So they're going to be there for wider dissemination, and of course you can read about them at a later date. So yeah, it's really exciting, and it was nice to be able to do something off one's own back. We rely on going to the MITComs and all the different events that we've seen, but I think one thing that Broadcast has been able to do is introduce their own events, and it was great to do a distribution focused event, and the audiences were great. I'm really encouraged by the numbers we got, and hopefully this will lead to bigger and better things.
Well, what I would like to know from you, John, what have you been watching this week?
Oh, what a fantastic segue into our favourite moment of the week, eh? Well, I gave a little clue earlier, but basically I caught up on The Walking Dead. I mean, I don't think there is a show out there anymore that can claim the same longevity as The Walking Dead. I mean, it's just finished its 10th series. If you see the likes of Netflix cancelling Glow after 4 series, the idea of 11 series, and it's got one more, 11 series is mad. So I've been watching that, and I will also just quickly say I watched Ted Lasso on Apple TV Plus. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's not the hardest hitting show. It's not gonna. I doubt it will win awards for craft, but do you know what? In this time when everyone's saying they need escapist content that's just lighthearted and gives you a bit of relief, it absolutely hits the spot. I thought it was charming. It was domestic. It was funny, and yeah, top notch. So a little plug for Ted Lasso from Apple TV Plus. How about yourself, Hannah? What have you been watching?
I've had a bit of a documentary heavy week. I watched the amazing Freddie Flintoff bulimia documentary. which I thought was incredible. And I really appreciated seeing a man discuss these issues on primetime TV. I think it was handled wonderfully. Like, he just helmed the show so well. And I really feel like it's going to raise a lot of awareness about male eating disorders, which basically I would really recommend to watch. And then on the other spectrum, I watched the Netflix Social Dilemma documentary, which sent me into a big existential crisis about using your smartphone, and I can't get it out of my head. And I mean, if you watch it and get some feedback, but I just am like, I just need to put the phone down now and step away. The only thing that I did watch that was a lot less heavy was I did watch the Apprentice Best Bits episode. And do you know what? That is content that delivered. There are some classic characters of that you totally forgot. And I mean, yeah, if you've got an hour, give it a watch. Thank you for listening to the Broadcast Newswrap podcast. I'm reporter Hannah Bowler, and you've been listening to the lovely Adeel Amini and Broadcast International editor John Elmes. You can check out past episodes of the pod on Spotify, Apple, or at broadcastnow.co.uk.